Okay, so today I just want to walk you through why we might want to use the kanban system and also go over the things that I really love about Trello. Okay, so obviously we have a lot of different things on our plates. We are doing evaluations, we are prepping ARDs. It's just a lot to keep up with, and it's very easy to feel like we are Pac-Man chasing the ghost, or maybe we feel like we're lost in a maze. Using a kanban system can help us streamline that process and really take control over all of those tasks. Okay, so you already know that I like using Trello. So these pictures here are the actual Trello boards that I use to organize my tasks. This is just one way to do it, and I'll show you some different ways that we could do it later. And I'm also going to show you how you could get started building these boards. Before I show you how to build the boards, I do want to point out the differences between the paid account and the free account. So I'm going to do side-by-sides in a minute to show you what each of those look like. My paid account is a standard plan you see there for the $5 a month. That one has worked great for me, and I want to say that I've had that probably for about 3 years now. Okay, so here I am building my list on my paid account board, which is the blue one in the background, and the new free account that I have in the purple at the bottom. And so with these, I am working on my evaluation board, and my lists there for that board are consent signed, ready to start writing, ready to test / in progress, and direct testing done. I have it set up that way because I like to start writing up the background referral information before I start testing. Doesn't always work that way, but that is my preference. So in my workflow, as soon as they're getting consent signed, I'm making sure that I have all of the referral packet documents. Once I know I've got all of those, they're going to sit in that ready to start writing list until I get to that block of time. Once all that background stuff is written, in an ideal situation, they're going to move over to the ready to test or in progress list, and then eventually they'll be in the direct testing done column where everything will get finished up. Now that I have my board made with all of my lists, I want to make what I'm going to call a template card. This is just a card that I'm going to use as a template so that I don't have to type out the same checklist over and over and over again. If I'm using my paid account, I can set up automations that will add these checklists. If I am using a free account, then I would have to manually go in to add those lists. I'll show you that later. You can see the large screen here is my paid account, and the smaller one in the corner is the free account. At this point, those are going to look identical. You can see that the first list I'm adding is my referral packet review list. I ran into a couple of situations where I didn't check that vision and hearing screening before I started getting ready to test the student, and so I added this to my process this school year to make sure that I actually reviewed those before I started working with the student. So the next list I'm going to add to my template card is my background writing checklist, and so this one is where I'm actually going through and beginning that report writing process. I mentioned earlier I like to write up all that referral packet first. That way I catch things like vision and hearing, or if there's anything just interesting in the student's background that would be important for me to know before I meet with them. I don't always get to do this before I test them, but all of those pieces would go here. So writing up parent information, teacher information, vision, hearing, health history, looking at benchmark scores, getting just basically any data that I can before I start that one-on-one testing with them. The next list is going to be my testing list. On this one, I'm going to be adding the tests that I most commonly give. Other lists that I'm not going to add in this video, but other things that I do add would be a rating scales list, an OHI list. I do keep those separate because all of the rating scales might not necessarily be OHI, right? And so my OHI list is, did I get consent for the release of information, and have I sent the fax to the physician, and then of course have I actually received that fax, have I scanned that and gotten it archived. The last checklist I want to put on the template card for this video is going to be what I call the direct testing done. This is not the same checklist that I use for my final stuff that includes like slap the date on it, archive it, send it to everybody. This checklist just shows the steps that I go through after I have finished that direct testing piece with the student. And so you can see in the bottom right corner, I'm still building these exact same list in both of the accounts that I have set up, and still everything is looking exactly the same. One of the things that I hope you're seeing here is that the list that I'm making, this isn't the end all be all of lists. It's just how it works best for me. So if you feel this doesn't fit your particular process, you can absolutely make the list however you want to make them, like whatever would work best for your particular process. I think when I first started this, I probably had more items in one checklist, and I started separating those out as my numbers started increasing, or I guess maybe that is my way of limiting my work in progress. Now that I have my checklist built, I'm adding a cover to my template. I've just picked blue. That way visually I know on a glance that's not a student card. I didn't do a recording of putting the cover on the template card in the free account, but that is a feature that works on either one. And so now what I've done is I've added a pretend student, and I am manually adding in the checklist that I created and just going through there and checking off each of those referral packet items, and I'm going to manually move it over to the ready to start writing. And now I can add that next checklist. I'm choosing a checklist that was already created from that template card. So that's why it's really good to make that. That way you're not having to rewrite that entire checklist every single time. And you can hide items that are completed as they're done there. Next, you see me move it again over. I'm going to delete that one this time. Now I can add that testing checklist, again, using that template card. Now on the paid account, I can create an automation to do all of this. And I'll go over that in a minute. But this is what it would look like if you've created a template card and if you're adding this in manually. Let's look at some differences with the paid account. So these are some features that you would have seen already in use in my other video. And so one of that is my color coding. I love having my list color coded. And so when I tried to add that on the free account, you see that it says you have to upgrade to change list colors. Custom fields is another feature that comes with the paid account. I had forgotten that this was not available on the free account, and so I think this was something that was confusing for several people who watched the first video. This is a really cool feature. I can color code my campuses and have a custom field set for that. We'll do next, here's the evaluation type. But I also will typically have custom fields to remind me if I need to send rating scales, or if it is an OHI evaluation with a fax, or look if dysgraphia is added. Those are things I use in the custom fields, and that really helps me be able to very quickly filter out students who need rating scales sent or need faxes sent. And now you can see what that looks like on the front of the card. You can kind of see it popping up there in the background. And of course, I have the same color scheme coordinated with my Google Calendar and my paper planner. And this screen is with the free account, where you can see there kind of at the bottom where it says start free trial. So that is not available on the free account. All right, so let's do my favorite part. Let's make an automation. So for this portion, I am in my paid account here. I'm going to set this automation based off of that custom field with the eval type as an initial. And so that is my first trigger there. And then what is going to happen next with this automation is that once I select initial as the eval type, the automation is going to add in the referral packet review checklist based off of that card, the initial template card, or whatever you would name it. You would just type that name in there. Okay, so let's see what this automation looks like. So I've added my card, I'm adding my campus, I'm selecting initial, and it should add that referral packet review checklist. Yeah, there it is. So it just added that for me. And now I'm going to make another automation. So for this one, I am going to make one where once I complete that referral packet review checklist, it will move that card over to the ready to write list. It's going to delete the referral packet checklist, and it's going to add my background writing checklist. There are some fabulous training videos on how to set automations, so I'm going to speed it up a bit through this part. Okay, so let's see this in action. I'm going to go through, review everything in that referral packet, and then in theory, this should move the card. It's going to delete that list and add a different one. You can still add automations with a free account. You're just limited in the number that you can run. I probably wouldn't add automations with multiple layers like that last one that you just saw, but I think you could still play around with doing a few of them. Of course, there are no custom fields, so you wouldn't be able to set that one up. You would be able to create triggers based on when checklists are completed, where it would maybe move that card over to the next list. So let's build a card and see that one in action. All right, so I manually added the checklist, and then that automation already moved the card for me. Now I'll manually delete that checklist and manually add the next checklist in the process. All right, the next part I want to show you is something that I haven't really mentioned before, which is the power-ups. I really like the calendar power-up because it can let me see an overview of how many things are due on a specific day. And this works really nicely with my paid account because I can add due dates on the checklist, and I'll show you that right here. Adding dates to checklist items is something that's only available through the paid account. Now I'm adding them to random things for this demonstration, but in reality, I would be adding them to the rating scale checklist or the OHI checklist where I need to send things to other people by a certain date. Because I use task batching and time blocking, this calendar view is really helpful for me to be able to quickly see what things I am doing during that chunk of time. The calendar power-up is still available on the free account, but it works a little differently because you can't add the dates to the checklist items. So you would only be able to see your due date for the entire cards, like your evaluation due date. You would be able to see that on the calendar power-up. All right, so one more thing to show you. I figured since we are talking about Kanban systems, maybe I should show you something that's a little bit more traditional, and just to give you an idea of a different way that a system like this could be used. So I'm creating here different backlogs. Those would actually match with my boards, right? So I've got an evaluation backlog here, an ARD prep backlog, and a read backlog. Okay, so now that I have the backlogs, I want to add my task list. So one thing you could do is to create a list for this month, this week, things that you're doing today. A traditional Kanban board would have a done column. It is up to you. If you like having the done column, I don't need to see that whole tally. I like things disappearing, but that would be another way that you could use this system to organize your evaluations and your work. I hope you found the additional information in this video helpful. I really appreciate getting feedback from several people already on the first video and knowing that this is something that would interest other diags, and also knowing where the gaps were in my first one. Also, I am working on recreating some of the things that I have in my paid account into that new free account. If you end up signing up for Trello, I should be able to give you access to the board, and then you would be able to copy, list, and the whole board. That's something that I will be working on over the next few days as well. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any other questions or things that you would like me to go over, definitely feel free to reach out.